Welcome to New Life Live with Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time, thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's today's host, Becky Brown.
Hello, everybody. We are so grateful that you joined us today. We're going to try and help you. And by we, I mean Dr. Jacqui, Mack-Harris, and Chris Williams. They are joining me today. And, you know, one of the things that we hear about we hear about this all the time is depression. Mm-hmm. And I think it's amazing because sometimes people experience depression and don't even realize it. The other day we had a caller and the woman realized that she had depression, but didn't know when it started, how she got so bad. And I just think there's so many people that are struggling with this. How can we help them? Chris and Jacqui, I know you have wisdom. Let's share it.
Well, I think the first thing is to know you have it, right? Just like you were saying, Becky, is that the struggle with depression is that because we're creatures of adaptation and it's sort of the proverbial frog in the boiling pot of water, it happens over time. And it's really, at the end of the day, there's a lot of aspects to it. It's complex, but mostly it's a depleted use of energy. It's that we don't have the energy. Our brain doesn't have usable energy. Our body doesn't have usable energy. And I find a lot of times, like, we need to know what the reason for that is. It physiological, biological? Because medicine can really help us there. But a lot of times what we neglect is understanding what is ripping or taking away our energy. Yeah. You know, our anxiety can take away our energy. It rips through energy like nothing else. Past trauma, pain, stress, all of these things cumulative. The other thing, depress. If we depress our emotions, that takes work and it's going to take away energy.
That's what I was thinking about, is the depressing of emotions. Often we're experiencing something. Sometimes it's situational depression. Yeah. You have a loss of some kind. Say you lose a job or a series of job losses or a series of losses. I lost a job. I had a breakup. I had a miscarriage. Like, thing after thing after thing, got into it with somebody at church and left that church. And so you have this series of hurts and you're down and you're so low for so long. And because you've been taught that nobody wants to see that long face, go to your room, stop crying, you begin to depress your emotions and try to avoid that emotional pain. And then you end up stuck. And some people are in that state for long periods of time. And so they don't recognize it. Like you said, it's the frog in the boiling pot of water. He doesn't recognize it because the water was cold when he got in. You know, you had something happen and you were a little sad, and then something else happened and you're a little sad, and it goes on, and you just kind of live life like Eeyore in this kind of mellow, low place. And before you know it, you're stuck in this dark place and you can't even figure out what you feel because you've been depressing or pressing down, shoving down, stuffing your emotions for so long. And as a recovering emotional avoider, I never thought I had depression until I was given a medication for chronic pain that was an antidepressant. And I was like,
what do we have here? Yeah.
There's color in the world. This is great. I have so much energy.
Well, that's so true. Jacqui, that's so true, because a lot of times in depression, you don't know how bad you are.
Exactly.
And until you get better and then you feel better. But, you know, to that point, Chris and Jacqui, which one of those indicators would somebody recognize? Because in that depressed state, it's like, am I sleeping too much? Am I not connecting?
I think it's things that it's the loss of motivation. It's the inability to connect to a purpose.
Not enjoying things you usually enjoy.
Yeah, certainly sleep and diet and radical changes there are definitely an indicator. But if we just say, like, man, I have a hard time getting up and getting going.
Yeah. You know, one of the most surprising facts about depression is it can show up as anger.
Yes,
and people
for
don't
sure.
recognize that. And so if you're reactive a lot, if you've got a short fuse, you may be dealing or not dealing with depression.
Yes.
Well, there are so many ways to help with depression. Not one way fixes it all, but there is help. If you need help, give us a call. 1-800-229-3000. We'll be back after this.
Our marriage was just so toxic and just so many simple interactions that turned into conflict. And so we signed up to participate in the workshop.
This is Steve Arterburn. Our Intimacy in Marriage workshop examines the various types of intimacy, spiritual, emotional, and physical, as well as the challenges of experiencing true intimacy.
The tools that we received from the Intimacy in Marriage workshop were tremendous. It was so much that we were able to take and utilize and actually come back and apply.
Don't settle for a miserable marriage or even one that's just okay. It's possible to have that great marriage you always want.
The next Intimacy in Marriage workshop is October 20th to the 23rd in Dallas, Texas. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE to find out more or go to newlife.com. 1-800-639-5433.
Best decision we could have ever made. There's no price that we can put on having healthy marriages.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. You know, if you're stuck, feeling stuck, whether it's depression or some other emotion, I want to invite you to the Emotional Freedom Online Workshop, which Chris and Jacqui will be presenting. And it is in December, but you can call us and get the connections there. But, you know, we don't want you to be stuck. And emotional freedom doesn't mean that you won't have emotions. You'll just have a full range of emotions. And that's what we know is going to be a way to experience life in such a good way. We're going to go to the calls right now. And we're going to talk with Renee, who's calling us from Ashland, Oregon. Thanks for calling us, Renee. How can we help you today? Well, there she is, maybe. Okay. Hey, Renee, are you there?
Yes, I am.
There you go. How are you? How can we help you today?
Yes, I'm a survivor, and I had just went on a mission trip to California where I lived, and it was long extended by San Diego and Navy, all through California. I'm from near Yucaipa. I've been living in Anchorage, Alaska, and this mission trip was to better me. Every morning I had joy and everything. On my way up, I always went up to get near my kids. I lost my daughter in Washington. I lost my husband while I was in the Mission Academy near the Navy. I got the call from my son, her husband, a soldier that got, it was just like 6 people. Well, my son is 46. He's made promises to me. I went down there to my friends have sent me house sitters to move forward. Get an apartment was too high. So I started traveling on the train and taking pictures during my grief. It was very, it took a year or two. And just my kids and me were survivors and are survivors. And during the loss, I went back to Anchorage, Alaska, where I've been staying. I do not have a place to stay. Everybody says the girl with the Bible in San Diego. A lot of people turned a blind eye, but I kept going forward, moving forward. And my son has showed really, really bad anger, not wanting to help me, leaving me and not calling me. But when my daughter died, he flew down and got my grandchildren, flew back to Anchorage, Alaska. They really look up to me, but never wants to offer to take me to look for an apartment.
So Renee,
Yeah.
you're the issue is then that you're, as a result of your daughter dying, your son has disconnected from you and not been supportive, and you've kind of been cut off from the family. Is that right?
Yes, I have. And then if he'll threaten me, like, if you don't get an apartment, like, I'm going to throw you. I've gotten so independent from being in California, and everybody's noticing, like, wow, she's gotten independent during COVID. Well, he'll threaten me. He'll get angry when we're having a happy holiday on Easter with all the kids, and scream at me, and like I'm a little child.
Well, it's not okay. That's not okay.
Not okay.
So, Renee, what would be a question that Chris and Jacqui can help you with?
Well, ever since I was a young girl, I didn't like anger, and I always wanted my aunts to me with a little girl faith. Well, it turned out I'll run from anger, conflict. You're too nice. You're too kind. It's always been about that. I want to say no. I want to say yes. So I'm calling to either get the boundaries book. I'm moving forward with my life.
Okay.
I'm not going to, I'm loving it.
Okay. Well,
you're looking so good. You're beautiful. You're doing so much. I've been offered a job with the airlines, and I try to, he'll make the promise to the moon, and then I realized my husband did too.
Okay, so Renee,
wonder what's going on here.
Okay,
Hi, Renee.
Well, yeah, there you go. Jacqui will help you with this.
Hi, Renee.
Thank you.
What are you a survivor of?
I am the survivor of a very serious stalking, and my two kids were 7 and 13, and there was a lot of money involved. I believe a billionaire, my twin sister and me.
That's okay. That's okay. I just wanted to know just a little bit about that. And you said you were hoping to get the boundaries booked. So it sounds like one of the things you need to do is be able to set boundaries for yourself and for others. And if we could send that book, that would be great. And it's really just about you being able to hear your son's boundaries and whatever is going on there, but also maintain your own. And maintain your own.
I never get to express mine.
That's okay. What you get to do is just live in yours. You don't have to get in, like you said, you don't really like conflict and anger. You want to turn away from anger. So that's okay. And he's up in Anchorage, and you sound like you're down here in California. You can.
I just was in Anchorage, and he never came by to help me.
That's okay. That's okay, because as you said, you are quite independent, right? You said you're quite independent. You're moving on. You're doing these things on your own, and it sounds like you're quite capable of making calls about appointments and finding a place to stay. And if we could get you maybe connected to some therapy in your area, so you could have someone to talk.
I've had it before, and my counselor says, he goes, you need to run on the beach and scream. He goes, everything, you're too kind now. He goes, you've worked hard on this. I took safety courses, life skill. I swim all winter in the Anchorage.
So you're doing
better myself.
Yep.
So you're doing a lot of things, Renee. Let's hear from Chris for just a minute.
So Renee, in every single one of us, there is this huge unseen magnet. And the magnet is drawn towards what we perceive as safety or comfort. Now, the magnet could be off, meaning that sometimes we get, we talked about adaptation. Sometimes we get used to things like abuse or unhealthy patterns, and our magnet gets recalibrated to unhealthy things, mistaking them as safe or secure. But regardless,
I believe you.
Yeah, but regardless, there's that magnet in there. Inside of you is a lot of chaos. And it makes
a lot of love. I've had a lot of love in me.
Yes.
But I hate anger. I don't understand.
Yeah, for sure. But follow me here. I want us to recognize, I want us to be very compassionate towards that. I want to recognize that as real and as something that is there and something that may repel other people's magnet. And so,
I don't know if it repels. It's like you're right. I don't know.
Well, and I'll be honest, I don't know for sure, but that's the pattern that I see in that. And what I would love for you to be able to do is be able to go into a deep process, because it's not about being kind or not being kind. It's about being at peace within the self. It's about being settled within your soul, and it's hard.
I'm starting to feel that.
Yeah, it's hard work. And so when we are more comfortable in ourselves and settled within ourselves, and we can access things like humility and be able to make repairs and do all of that sort of thing in our life, then we tend to attract healthier relationships. And maybe repair
healthy too.
And maybe repair some of the relationships that have been damaged over time. Now, it is true, we can't make other people do that. But in your situation, what I would love for you to do is engage in a therapeutic process, engage in relationships for yourself that allow that chaotic part of you to settle down and to be at peace and
comfortable,
whatever is there that is disturbed to be settled.
Well, this thing that happened to me really hurt my heart.
Yes.
Going on this mission trip, and then everybody says, you went on this mission trip and your daughter dies. I'm like,
yeah, for sure.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
it's traumatic.
There's a lot of pain there. And pain left untouched gets very chaotic very quickly.
Well, and Renee, we hear you. We're going to send you a copy of Boundaries, but I also think a copy of Healing is a Choice might be helpful as well. And just hold on to the line. And we are so grateful that you called. It's true, Chris, that a lot of times the stuff that gets stirred up in our heart starts to connect with everybody else's stirred up stuff, because we all got stuff.
Yeah.
And we really can't control what other people are doing, but we can do our own work, and that's in healing and get to the core of what the issue is. And the loss of a daughter is traumatic,
for sure.
And we have to, it just really makes us vulnerable
and Becky,
for other things.
When you said that, I had this thought that when we are interconnected, and so we don't recognize that when we are in pain and it is like just spilling off of us and running over, others are picking that up. And so when there's so much of it and it feels chaotic and ongoing, sometimes people will separate themselves from that, and they're doing that for their own best interest, and we just have to respect that.
Yeah, and it's to recognize. I love that, Jacqui, because it's true. It's that we don't know what their capacity is to deal with our pain, and so it's a lot. But well, we're so grateful that you called, Renee, and we'll get those books to you. We're going to go on to Ashley, who's calling us from Savannah, Tennessee, listens on WVNX, and we're so glad you called, Ashley. How can we help you today?
I'm just trying to get some guidance about the proper response to being asked to do things at a church where I'm new at the last minute so frequently. And when I set boundary about needing to have enough time before I'm asked to do something, there was denial. Then there was, statement of, we'll handle it, in an angry sort of way. And then I went to church, and I've been feeling ostracized. No one wants to speak, or they're having a big event, and they didn't ask for my help for the potluck, and I'm just feeling like I don't really want to go there anymore.
Ashley, is it confusing to you?
I don't feel confused. I just feel that I'm being used and that I'm not allowed to speak out against what I feel.
Okay, so I am so glad you're not confused, because that means what you're telling us is you have really good clarity around that. Now, I'm going to ask you to do something a little bit different. If the church was actually a person, just one person, okay, and that was their behavior, would you be close to that person?
No.
Okay. I wouldn't either. Because we're looking at things of immaturity. I remember when I was working in the construction industry, and one of the supervisors one of the foremen had the signs in his office. And he said, "Lack of planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part."
I've seen it.
Right? Yeah, it's a popular one out there, right? And then like my crisis becomes your crisis, but if you don't respond to me the way I want you, then I get mad at you. Is that a mature or immature person?
Immature.
Yeah, you don't want to be a part of an immature church.
Yeah. And here's the thing. You set a boundary. I'm not cool with you asking me to do things last minute. So they stopped asking you because their planning is last minute. So when you walk in there and they're doing things, if it feels to you like you're being ostracized, you may show up as though you're being ostracized. But what if you just showed up like everything was good? They respected the boundary you set. because you were maybe hoping they would change their process and give you more time. That's not who they are. They're going to come up with something. They're going to plan it at the last minute. They're going to throw it together, and they want people to just be able to jump on that, and you're not able to do that. So maybe consider that they're just being them, just like you're just being you, and that there isn't any animosity. They just know that you have some strong boundaries, so they're giving you your space. Just walk back in there with love like nothing's wrong, and then see what happens. And if they're shunning you, then we have that immature church that you might need to look for another place to be.
Does that help, Ashley? That gives you some insight, doesn't it?
Yes.
Well, we're gonna. You can hear the music. We're gonna go on a break. We'll come back after the break and finish up this conversation. But I loved what you said, Chris. If the church was one person, what would you do? Because the church is many people. Mm-hmm. And I heard somebody say the other day, we're all sheep, and sometimes sheep bite. So you got to beware. We'll be right back after this.
My girlfriends and I have been searching for so long to try to find an event to attend.
Lumina is a new women's conference designed to inspire your faith so you can lead and live confidently from God's Word.
It was nice to come here and just realign myself with who God says He is in my life.
The Lumina Conference is a 2-day experience. 1 full day of worship and teaching in Museum of the Bible's World Stage Theater, and a half-day guided tour through Museum of the Bible.
You are literally immersed in the Word of God. You can walk through the Old Testament. You can walk through the New Testament.
Lumina is for women of all generations, cultures, and denominations. It's a great place to gather with women from your church and community.
If you want some fellowship and you want to be strengthened, this is the place you want to be.
This year's Lumina Conference is October 27th and 28th in Washington, D.C.
It was absolutely life-changing.
For more information, go to luminawomen.org.
I have given to New Life regularly because I have so many people that I am referring to New Life who so benefit from the ministry. I just can't imagine what would happen in my area if New Life wasn't available to us.
You can help New Life Live stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, we'll send you the new member thank you gift of all 8 100-day devotionals, including 100 Days of Prayer, 100 Days of Freedom from Depression, and 100 Days of Peace. There are also ongoing benefits like the monthly Club New Life CD or download, access to the Club New Life video library, quarterly resources, free shipping on purchased resources, discounts on workshops, and quarterly online meetings with Steve. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We would love to hear from you. We always love to hear from you, and you can call us at 1-800-229-3000, or if you need something, you can always call us 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We are there for you. We're talking with Ashley, who has set a boundary, and one of the things that you said, Jacqui, was that you set the boundary, they heard your boundary, but it doesn't feel good when things change like that. And so we have to get okay with the change, but what can we do to help Ashley move towards just feeling good about this? Because it's not just one person, it is the church. How can we help her?
Well, Ashley, I think you were saying before we went to the break that you did go back to the church.
Yes, I did, and that's when I experienced the ostracism.
So ostracism, they weren't talking to you, you tried to talk to them and they avoided you. Were they getting in little groups and like making fun of you? What was the ostracize?
Not speaking, grouping together, and not reaching out. I walked by and said hi, but
Did they say hi?
No.
Okay. And what happens? Were you still doing the things you always did before, right? Would you normally walk up and become a part of that group, or wait to be invited?
I think I did not walk up to become a part because I had experienced it all during the service, that they were seemingly I was being ostracized.
It's that seemingly part for me that I want you to really try to engage back with them before you give up on them.
That's good.
Because it's possible that actually that you're projecting your feelings on them, right? If someone had come to you and told you something like you told them, would your feelings be hurt? Are you thinking that maybe somebody's feelings were hurt, or that they were angry with you, or that there's something else going on? If that's the case, then maybe a conversation is in order. But touch bases.
I went and had a conversation with the lady who's responsible for the scheduling, and she was making excuses for everyone that didn't.
That's okay. That's why I said you have a standard that they are not going to live by. And so her excuses are reasons. She's just telling you what people's situation is. And that might be hard to hear if that became conflictual, if that became an argument, or she felt put down in some ways, or judged, you might really be experiencing the backlash of that. I would think about your part in it, because that's all you have control over.
Right. Right. I think we're going to send you a copy of Take Your Life Back, Ashley, and I think that will help with because it is, it's hard to manage that. But I love what you just said, Jacqui, is that we can have the feelings, but it may not be what is actually true about the situation, and we don't know what those folks are going through as well. So we're so glad that you called, Ashley. We're going to keep going to the calls. We're going to talk with Tina, who's calling us from Peoria. Listens on Sirius XM. Hello, Tina. How can we help you today?
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. I'm going to pull over right now. Thank God I'm where I can.
Okay.
My question. I'm going through a lot right now, but I'll focus on this. My 88-year-old mother, she has dementia. She lives in assisted living. She has a up and down personality. I have a hard time dealing with her, but I do my best. Then the other side of this is she has a sister that's 84, has had Alzheimer's for 10 years. She recently, this past Sunday, was given 48 to 72 hours to live. This morning, I got the call from my cousin that my aunt passed away. So, okay, my question is, I haven't told my mom because of the dementia and because of her, just because I haven't told her. I've asked professionals like doctors, the nurses, should I tell her? And they're like, no, we don't think you should because, you know, she could forget or she could fixate or she could get really upset and, you know, all these things. And I feel like I should tell her. Her sister just passed away. But I don't really know what to do.
Ashley, our hearts, we hear you. We hear you. It is hard. It's a lot of work to take care of aging parents and then to complicate that with just the losses of life. Chris, how can we help her? And
yeah, Tina, I am so sorry because until you've been in it or through it, it is impossible to express how complicated and difficult and heartbreaking seeing a parent or a loved one go through dementia, because it's like they're there and they're not there all at the same time. And the personality changes and things can change moment to moment. And I get this sense that, and I could be wrong because this is a negative sense, but I get the sense that the facility is saying, don't tell her because it'll make more work for us.
Oh my God, yes.
Okay,
Thank
that's
you,
a terrible reason. Okay, your mom may not remember, she may not carry it, but for your sake, you don't want to carry this information, and you don't want to keep it from your mom. And so I believe in a moment where there is some peace and some attention there, that you can tell her that her sister has passed away, for the sake of you offloading that information for yourself, as well as letting your mom know.
Now, Tina, you can hear the music. Don't go away. Just sit there for a minute, and we'll be back after this. We hear your heart. We'll be back to help you. Just a minute.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit it's addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We are talking with Tina right now. And Tina, we're just so sorry that you're going through this. And there's so much to unpack. But Jacqui, let's go back into that discussion about grief.
Yes. So Tina, one, I just want to say, as a previous nurse in assisted living and memory care, I get where they're coming from too. You mentioned that you had a difficult relationship with your mom, and so I would be mindful of when the best time to tell her is, right? Don't do it after 3:00 when there's sundowners, and then also be mindful be mindful of why you're telling her, right? You are grieving, and she's your mom, and when I'm sad, I go to my mom. When I lose something, I go to my mom.
That wouldn't be it, because my mom and I are not close. She allowed me to be sexually abused from 4 to 11 years old, and I got myself out of that situation by getting pregnant.
So there's some trauma that still hasn't been worked through.
I have, oh God, I prayed. I've been to counseling, and I forgave my offender. I went to him and I forgave him. I released that on him. I don't know how to do that with my mom, because my mom abandoned me and didn't protect me. But that's not why. That's not even why I called. I feel in my heart my mom needs to know that her sister has passed.
So then go with your heart. I'm sure you've prayed about it. Go with your heart. Just be prepared. Just be prepared for her to not have a response that you expect or that feels good. Right? Like you're going to let her, and then be prepared for her to ask 100 more times, and be prepared for the facility to be frustrated by that. But she has dementia and isn't in control of those things. And so sharing with her sounds like for you would be the right thing to do, but also get some care for yourself, because you are grieving. You're in perpetual grief. It's compounded by the fact that your mom is going through the exact same thing your aunt just passed from this morning, and you need someone to be able to talk all these things out with. And also, you have a rupture in your relationship with your mother, who now has dementia. can you get that rupture repaired? Well, it's hard to do if she can't remember things. And so I think you really need somebody to do some work with you on the trauma and grief.
I did try to talk to my mom. I had a wreck 30 years ago, and I lost my life, but God brought me back, and for a reason, I know that. And I tried to talk to her about it, and she shut me down and said, "Do I have to pay for this all my life?"
So
the rest of my life.
Tina,
So
Tina, your mom is unable to make the repair. She's proven that, right?
Yes.
However,
absolutely.
The hurt and resentment is still alive in you.
And the consequences of what happened to you still go on. So to hear her say, I have to pay for this for the rest of my life, had to be really hard.
And the response is, well, I do, right?
Exactly.
And so that's why I want you to hear Jacqui employ you, and myself included, get into grief and trauma care. Get into a professional who really knows what they're doing here, because regardless of what your mom can and can't do, does or doesn't do, that fear and that resentment and that hurt are all still alive in you, and you're not designed to carry that.
Tina, we will get you connected with somebody. I'm going to send you a copy of Forgiving What You'll Never Forget by Dr. Dave Stoop. It will help you in this process, but there's so much that gets attached to our current grief that is historical, and it's just part of our human experience. But we'll be praying for you, Tina, and it is tough. I was telling Jacqui and Chris at the break, there are so many people that are going through this exact same story. There's a lot of boomers that are aging and their health is declining. And then you've got the adult children who are taking care of it. And it's bringing up all this historical trauma, pain, and unresolved connections. And we need a work of God to help us get through that. But we're so grateful that you called, Tina. And we're grateful for you, Larry Sonnenberg, who's in the studio there in California. Hi, Larry. How can you encourage us today with a testimony or something?
I got a testimony and want to seek a little bit of help. Testimony is from Intimacy and Marriage Workshop, a week from this coming weekend in Dallas on the 20th of September. It starts, and I just want folks to be mindful of that. And as I've read testimonies, it is so interesting the different type of people that come and what they get out of this, but it's all good. My husband and I have been married for 12 years. We've always had love and passion for each other, but fought constantly. We started therapy in 2020, and our therapist ultimately told us that we have an issue with connection. For the past year, we have struggled to understand what she meant until this weekend. We now understand what our therapist has been trying to get us to see, and are excited to use the tools we've gained to help heal our past and current wounds. My hope is that we're not only able to heal and grow in our marriage, but become secure connectors that are able to raise children who have secure love styles as well. I'm forever grateful to our friends who introduced us to the How We Love book. We'll recommend this workshop to others. Recommend the workshop, recommend that book, How We Love. Just recommend you call 800 New Life and check it out. Ask questions. But in the end, I hope you'll sign up. And then lastly, Becky, I just want to remind folks, we're still working on this matching gift. It was $361. This is a recorded program. I don't have the update, but I know we have a ways to go, and your gift is likely to be matched. We're not in the final days yet, but we want to get there. So any gift will be doubled.
Yeah, I appreciate the effort that everyone's making for the match to be met, because your gift doubles, and it makes the program available. It makes the call center be able to take calls. It helps us reach out with hope and help, and that's what we're all about. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
And thanks for the testimony as well. And if you want to join us at the Intimacy and Marriage Workshop, you can call us 1-800-NEW-LIFE, or you can go to newlife.com, both to find out about the workshop and to donate. We're so grateful for all of you who give to make all of this a possibility. We're grateful for you. We're going to go back to the calls, and we are going to talk with Betsy, who is calling us from Hamilton, New Jersey, listens on the app. You can listen on the app as well. You can download it wherever you get your apps. Betsy, how can we help you today?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you so much for taking my call. I was talking to my sister last night, and she's a psychotherapist. She has a PhD, and she's her thesis was on trauma. And I was talking to her and asking her about my childhood. Like, she knows what happened to me. Like, when I was born, I had some medical problems, and I was hospitalized a number of times. And back then, they didn't let parents be with the kids when they were in the hospital. So it was like, I said to her, does your body remember the trauma? Does the body remember being abandoned, even if you don't remember in your head? And she said, yes. And I said, well, I just wonder, is that like the reason why I never feel loved or accepted now? Is that the reason why I feel abandoned? And because so often I do. So often I feel like I don't matter to people, stuff like that. And then at work, like we have meetings at once a month, and they have this list of people who are, if you put on a list, you have a chance of being validated and appreciated for the month. And my name's not even on the list. And that's so hurtful. I just feel so hurt. They have people on the list that have been there for less than 2 years. I've been working there for 22 years, and I've given my very best to them. And I I have problems, emotional problems, and I have, and I really work hard. I really do everything I can to offset those other problems. But like this woman that I work under, she used to be my supervisor, but now she's my supervisor, and she's always been a bully to me and treated me terribly.
Well,
she's
Betsy,
always, made me feel worthless.
We're so sad to hear all of that, but I want to go back to what your first question was about. Do you still experience that? How do you get through the healing? And Jacqui, I know we're going to go to a break in just a minute, but it's true. Is what we experience in our infancy, in our early years, really does impact our whole life. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't find healing and hope and a new way to experience life, but it's not easy. And so, Betsy, hold on. We will come back after this break and we'll talk about it. That's one of the reasons why we talk about all the workshops that we do and all the resources and the counselors, because there is hope, there's help. It may not be in the way that you think or that you even want, because a lot of times people are like, I don't want to go to a counselor. I don't need help, but you're struggling. So why don't you make that call? It could be the best next step for you. You can call us, 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We'll get you connected with that next right step. We'll be right back.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you, or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are. Chris Williams on coaching.
Oftentimes I get asked, what is the difference between therapy and coaching? The biggest difference between the two is that a therapist is going to be looking for a diagnosable mental health condition, whereas a coach is going to look at a particular issue and help a person work through that.
If you need a coach, call New Life today and ask about the New Life Coaching Network. Our coaches have been trained and screened with the same intensive process we use for our network counselors.
If you're looking at an issue in your life that you just kind of want to change, whether it be your weight or leadership or other areas of behavioral patterns, check out coaching. There can be some really, really helpful things for you.
Take control of your life and take action to achieve your goals. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 and talk to us about getting a new life coach. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We're talking with Betsy, who was literally abandoned in care when she was an infant and is still experiencing that emotional wound all these years later. Jacqui, let's help Betsy get some direction moving forward.
Well, Betsy, thank you for calling and sharing your story. And I agree with your sister. The body does keep score. And so even when we have pre-verbal trauma, it sticks. And so you went through the trauma of whatever the illness was, and then the scariness of this surgery as, a little baby. And then I worked in peds as a medic years and years ago. So I remember the days when kids would have surgeries and there would be no parent to stay in the room. Thank God we've learned from that, and now you can stay in the room with your loved one overnight. But that it impacted you and left you feeling alone in times when you're feeling vulnerable. And it sounds like it's impacting your other relationships. And I just think it would be really helpful for you if you could do some work and get to the place where you maybe shifted your expectations. Because when your feelings are hurt and you feel alone, that feeling is probably true and you can acknowledge it. But oftentimes we're the first one to meet our need. And if you see that you have an emotional need, you have some feelings, I usually ask my clients to ask themselves 4 questions. What do I feel? Where do I feel it in my body? Why am I feeling this way, and what do I need? And then the what do I need, I'm the first person I look at to meet that need. And if I can't meet that need, then God has given me others. He's given me resources. And so then I go outside myself and look for help. And so getting with a therapist that could help you walk through that and do some grief work so that you can grieve the losses and the abandonment from your youth, even though it was before your dawn of conscious memory, and also work through that trauma so that you don't continue to carry it around in your everyday relationships. Because you said you have emotional issues and that might be impacting the way you show up at work, and you want to be seen as a whole person, not just those moments. And so doing some work on that, I think, could really help. Chris?
I love that.
I agree.
Well, okay, great. That's great. Betsy, we're going to send you a copy of Take Your Life Back, and I think, and we'll get you connected with a counselor in your area. It is important work to do that healing from an early age, and we're so grateful that you called. We'll be praying for your situation. We're going to go to our final caller today. Elena's calling us from Washington, D.C., and we're glad you called. We just have a few minutes, but I wanted to get to your call. How can we help you today, Elena?
Thank you for taking my call. I'm calling because my dad is addicted to alcohol, and I wanted to ask for an advice if there is anything I can do to help him.
It's a great question. And yes, of course. Chris, where would you start?
Well, I always start in the same place, Elena, and that is the first principle of addiction recovery, and that is the recognition of powerlessness. So addiction is super baffling. Like, it doesn't make sense, that a person would do something that ruins themselves and other people around them and keeps doing it despite these horrific consequences or, adverse effects. But that's points to the fact that your dad is powerless against his drinking. If he's powerless, how much more powerless are you? That you could go in there, you could pour out the alcohol, you can scream and yell at him, you could do all of these sort of things, but it's still not going to, or probably won't stop his behavior. However, it doesn't mean that you're hopeless or helpless. It just means you're powerless. The first thing I would have you do is to really recognize how his drinking has impacted you. And here's when we're in relationship to people who are struggling with addiction, what they need is what they also reject, and that is honesty. They don't need your anger. They don't need your resentment, but they need your honesty. It's like, Dad, I don't like being around you when you're intoxicated, when you've been drinking. I can't be close to you, or your behavior can be embarrassing to me. So I can't do that. But I want...
And Chris, to say that when he's not drunk.
Yes.
Like when he's not drinking.
Yes.
That's a variable that needs to be said.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Becky. Absolutely. But I would say that one of the things that you can do is get into your own recovery process, whether that be Al-Anon, if there's a life recovery group in your area, in recovery from codependent or relationship to those who, again, have an addiction, like an Al-Anon group. And when your dad asks you where you're going, you let him know exactly where you're going and why you're going there.
Yeah, I agree
Jacqui?
I agree with you, Chris, in that going and doing this recovery work for yourself is actually your answer, because what you're trying to do is soothe the pain inside of you that's caused by your father's alcoholism by his getting sober. And you will still be left with your wounds from this history. And so the better option for you is to look at what you need to do for you, and so that you do your work, a life recovery group that could help you deal with how you show up in the relationship, because we end up in patterns where you're showing up probably with him the same ways over and over again, and he's showing up the same ways over and over again, and you can be the one to get off the merry-go-round because you're not stuck in addiction, but you are kind of addicted to this cycle that he's put the family in. And so I agree, get into recovery for yourself to start to deal with that emotional pain that you're having, that loss and anger and all those things that you must be feeling because of your dad's alcoholism, and then set healthy boundaries so that you can keep yourself in situations that work for you. We don't have to tolerate the intolerable.
It's so powerful when we recognize our powerlessness in a situation, which is obviously, contradiction, it feels like, but that is where our power lies, is I'm not going to tolerate this. I'm going to recognize my powerlessness, because as you said, Chris, what we tend to do is we want to make them do what we want them to do. Well, how's that going to work for you? And we've talked to so many people over the years where, they did all of the things. That's codependency, is exerting control in an out of control situation. And you can't pour enough bottles of liquor out to make somebody sober.
For sure. And let me come full circle to where we started at the top of the program with depression.
Yes.
And energy. When we fight against our own powerlessness and the powerlessness of other people, we expend a tremendous amount of energy in a fight that we've lost before we begun.
Right.
And then we wonder why we end up in places of frustration and resentment and ultimately, depression and defeat. And so it's like, okay, the powerlessness actually, it sounds horrible, but it's an invitation to a different fight that you can win, not one that you could lose. And that's the recovery process.
I remember this really wonderful professor that I had in substance abuse class. Just blew my mind.
He was handsome too. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, he was. It just blew my mind when I learned that the problem isn't a problem unless the person with the problem recognizes it as a problem. And so if Dad doesn't see his problem, Dad's not going to do anything about it. You see your problem, and so you get to do something about it.
That's good.
And if you didn't know who that professor was, I'm having a feeling that it might be Chris Williams.
It
but I
was,
could be
yes.
wrong.
Yes.
Well, Elena, we'll be praying for you. We're going to send you a copy of Understanding and Loving a Person with Addiction. And I think it is, I can never remember the title, if it's alcohol and chemical or just addiction, but whatever it is, we're going to get it to you, Elena, and it's going to help you. I appreciate the two of you and the wisdom that you bring. How can we encourage our listeners in this last minute?
I would say, let's go back to depression or anxiety. Your external circumstances are not going to change it. Go to work on what's happening on the inside.
Yes, know your story. Know your story and do work on it to make it what you want it to be.
I love that. Thank you both. And thank you, listeners. Call us if you need help. We're here for you. Thanks again.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Hi, thank you for watching New Life Live. You know, New Life Live is a Christian counseling program where we deal with the hard questions about life, relationships, kids, free choice, freedom of will, whatever. It's all right there on New Life Live every day, every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. If you want to call into the live broadcast, you can find the schedule on newlife.com or click the social media link right below. You can see every episode of New Life Live on the New Life YouTube channel. Watch it with a friend, watch it later. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you'll never miss another episode. So if you want to listen on the go, download the app. The link is right below. And I hope if you need some information, if you want to get some help, you'll call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. And I'll see you next time.